Hello my dear friends, and welcome back to another Star Wars video. So yesterday something pretty crazy happened. I came across one of these posts. You know the ones which are a character versus character, two people from the Star Wars universe pitted against each other. Usually they're pretty intelligent and they make you think, but this one I thought was a no-brainer. I thought the answer was obvious, but apparently to some fans, it isn't. And I was mind-blown to see how many people were disputing the canon answer to this, and so I thought I'd make an in-depth video about this, breaking it down and explaining why this is not in dispute. The answer is very straightforward. So the question is this: who would win between Ahsoka Tano and Darth Sidious? Note, they're both in their prime. I then jumped on this and responded with, Darth Sidious would mop the floor with Ahsoka and it isn't even close. Now I will be charitable and say, there are only two circumstances where Ahsoka stands a single chance. The first is that Dave Filoni writes this fight. He hates when she loses, and he's obsessed with her, often in ways that defy canon lore reasoning. The second exception is if this is post-Peridia Ahsoka, where she's Ahsoka the White, and maybe fully becomes the daughter, and has powers we can't even comprehend. But even then, Palpatine is long dead. But this question asks about the characters during their prime. There is no contest, it is Darth Sidious. And let me explain why. Not only was he able to best Master Yoda in Revenge of the Sith, but he was a master of all 7 forms of lightsaber combat. And for those who say Ahsoka stands a chance, I think you're underestimating just how powerful Palpatine was. I'm gonna prove to you that in a one-on-one confrontation, Ahsoka would be crushed by Darth Sidious's might. So here we go. Let's begin with the obvious. Palpatine was more than just a scheming politician. He was the enactor of the Sith Grand Plan, generations in the making. Trained by Darth Plagueis, Sidious was a cunning manipulator, master of alchemy, and a master lightsaber duelist. By the time of the Clone Wars, he was noted to be an expert of every form. The one he was primarily known for using was the most aggressive and ferocious form, a variant of Form 7, Juyo, and we saw him use it in Revenge of the Sith, cutting down 3 Jedi Council masters in seconds: Agent Kolar, Saesee Tiin, and Kit Fisto. And you might say, well yes, that's all well and good, but Mace Windu bested him, but that was only because he was able to channel his very best Vapad technique. And even then Sidious won, not in lightsaber combat, but thanks to Anakin walking in, Palpatine's manipulations, and making Anakin believe he needed him if Padme were to survive. Now if you're talking about lightsaber prowess, one of the best examples is in the Clone Wars Season 5, where Sidious fights his former apprentice Darth Maul and Savage Opress. It was like watching a predator play with his prey, because as he demolishes Savage, Palpatine is still cackling, as if the whole thing is a joke, as if this is just another Tuesday. And even Maul, who uses both the lightsaber and the darksaber, stands no chance. He begs Palpatine for mercy. And an additional factor you have to keep in mind is Sidious would often finish off his opponents with the old Zappity Zap, Force Lightning, and that's not even accounting for manipulations of the mind, getting inside the opponent's head. Now something I just want to put out there is I'm not talking about Palpatine in The Rise of Skywalker. I'm not here to talk about the clone Palpatine who Rey defeated with the help of the Jedi from the past, and incidentally one of them was Ahsoka. We're talking about these characters during their prime. Now to me there is only one fight that seals how powerful Sidious really was. It's his fight against the Grandmaster Yoda in Revenge of the Sith. And I want to spend some time breaking this down, because I saw some people talk about it on Twitter, and fans seem to be misunderstanding what happened in that fight. According to George Lucas, the fight ended in stalemate. Yoda was bested though, and the reason he exiles himself is he knows if he carries on, he's gonna die. He was cornered, as the novelization says. And if Yoda was considered the best duelist in the entire order, there is no scenario Ahsoka would have done better. So much as to defeat Sidious? I don't think so. Could she have held her own for a little bit? Absolutely. But could she have defeated and killed Palpatine during that time? Absolutely not. And there is a misunderstanding, like I said, where people think the reason that Yoda retreated and left is because clone troopers arrived. That's not true. The novelization confirms he was outmatched, even though the duel reached a stalemate, and the way Palpatine's attacks were described were like a hurricane of blades, especially the Force Lightning, once Yoda disarmed him. We'll come to Ahsoka's skills in just a minute, but let me first read to you how the Revenge of the Sith novel describes the fight. And I understand, the book is no longer canon, but because it's the companion novel to a saga movie, I still see it as canon. So here's what it says. Yoda found himself alone against the dark, in that lightning spear tornado of feet, and fists, and blades, and bashing machines. His vision had finally pierced the darkness that clouded the Force. Finally, he saw the truth, that the Avatar of Light, supreme master of the Jedi Order, the fiercest, most devastatingly powerful foe of the darkness, just did not have it. The greatest Jedi in the Order had lost. He never had it. He lost before he started. The Sith had changed. The Sith had grown, had adapted, had invested 1,000 years intensive study into every aspect of not only the Force, but Jedi lore itself. In preparation for this day, the Sith had their revenge. They had remade themselves. They had become new. The new Sith could not be destroyed. Not like this. They could not be burned away by any torch of the Force. The brighter Yoda's light, the darker their shadow. Yoda knew in that instant that this insight held the hope of the galaxy. But not now. Not today. And that's why Yoda realized that if he fell here, if he died, the hope dies with him. And that, my friends, is the reason that Yoda retreated and then exiled himself to Dagobah. If he continued to fight, he knew he was about to lose. Sidious would not have just taken Yoda's life, but stolen the future hope for the galaxy. Because we don't know if Obi-Wan and Bail Organa would have shared the same plan without Yoda's guidance. So now let's talk about Ahsoka. Something she has going for her is that she's extremely agile and acrobatic, using 2 blades, often one in reverse grip, giving her fluid attack and defense good coverage. She's known to incorporate Form 4, which is Ataru, with Form 5 strong counterattacks. She was also phenomenal in Jarkai. If Sidious chose to go power against power, while Ahsoka would be a very good opponent, I still think Sidious knocks her off balance. And even if there is a scenario where she bested him with a lightsaber, Sidious can use Force Lightning and use a range of other powers up his sleeve like telekinetic restraint. Some people have countered, well, Ahsoka is super fast, well, so is Palpatine. It was once noted that Palpatine wasn't using his full speed when killing the Jedi Masters in Revenge of the Sith. Another argument is that in Star Wars Rebels, Ahsoka holds her own against Darth Vader, but remember that during that time, Vader wasn't as powerful as Palpatine. His suit slowed him down. Although Vader eventually defeats Sidious, it's not in combat. It's a risky move out of love for his son when Sidious is distracted. But in terms of raw power during the time of Star Wars Rebels, Vader was not as powerful as Sidious. So personally, guys, I think this debate is a bit silly. But like I said, if Dave Filoni wrote it, I'm sure he'd find a way for Ahsoka to come out on top. But in terms of all we know from the prequel trilogy, from the Clone Wars, and from Legends, Sidious wins 9 times out of 10. Even if she could beat Darth Maul, Inquisitors, a range of other Force users, I just don't see her standing a chance against the most powerful Sith. But what do you guys think? Maybe you disagree with me, but all available evidence points to Sidious being the victor. Share your thoughts down below. If you enjoyed this one, guys, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up. Subscribe if you're new, check me out on socials, and may the Force be with you, always.